The crack of his hand against her face echoed across the parade ground like a gunshot. 2,000 Marines stood frozen. Rear Admiral Marcus Harwell's palm was still raised, trembling with rage. The young woman before him, barely looked 22, didn't flinch. Blood dripped from her split lip onto the dusty concrete. She simply straightened her head, turned back to center, and stared at him with eyes that held absolutely nothing. No fear, no tears, no anger. Just emptiness. The kind of emptiness that comes from having killed 47 men and remembering every single face. Admiral Harwell had just made the worst mistake of his 30-year career. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to our channel and follow Elena's journey to the very end. Comment below with the city you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels around the world. The blood hit the pavement before anyone could breathe. Elena Vance didn't move, didn't blink, didn't make a sound. She just stood there, spine straight, chin level, letting the crimson drops fall from her split lip like they meant nothing. Because to her, they didn't. Rear Admiral Marcus Harwell stared at his own hand like it belonged to someone else. The sting was already fading from his palm, but something else was settling in. Something he couldn't name. The girl in front of him, this nobody in civilian clothes, should have crumbled, should have cried, should have done something. Instead, she looked at him like he was already dead. "Security!" Harwell barked, his voice cracking slightly. "Get the civilian off my parade ground, now!" 2 military police officers started forward, then stopped. They'd seen the credentials she'd shown earlier. Pentagon, Department of Defense. Letters that outranked everyone on this field, except maybe God. "Sir," one of them said carefully, "she has authorization from—" "I don't care if she has authorization from the president himself." Harwell's face had gone from red to purple. "This is my command, my Marines, and I will not have some little girl playing soldier in the middle of my ceremony." Elena finally spoke. Her voice was quiet, calm. The kind of calm that made experienced operators reach for their weapons. "Admiral Harwell, I'm here under direct orders from the Secretary of Defense. My credentials are valid. My assignment is classified. And with respect, sir, you just assaulted a federal official in front of 2,000 witnesses." The silence that followed was deafening. Harwell stepped closer, close enough that Elena could smell the coffee on his breath, the expensive cologne that couldn't quite mask his sweat. "You think anyone here is going to side with you?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think anyone cares about some Pentagon paper pusher who wandered onto the wrong base?" Elena didn't step back, didn't even shift her weight. "I think," she said softly, "that you should be very careful about what you do next, Admiral." His hand came up again. This time, she caught it. Not aggressively, not violently. Just stopped it in midair, her fingers wrapped around his wrist with the casual ease of someone catching a thrown ball. The movement was so fast, so effortless, that several Marines in the front row actually gasped. Harwell's eyes went wide. He tried to pull back. Couldn't. "Let go of me," he hissed. Elena held his wrist for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for him to feel the strength in her grip, long enough for him to realize that she could have broken his arm if she'd wanted to. Then she released him and stepped back. "I apologize, Admiral. Reflexes." Her voice was still perfectly calm. "It won't happen again." She turned and walked away. 2,000 Marines watched her go. Not one of them moved. Not one of them spoke. They just watched as this young woman, long dark hair flowing behind her, blood still dripping from her chin, walked off the parade ground like she owned it. Harwell stood there. Colonel Nathan Pierce found Elena in the women's bathroom, running cold water over her face. The door was supposed to be locked, but she'd heard him coming from 50 feet away and decided to let him in. "That was either the bravest or the stupidest thing I've ever seen," Pierce said, leaning against the doorframe. "I'm not sure which." Elena looked at him in the mirror. Pierce was 54, career Marine, Silver Star recipient. He was also her primary contact on base, and one of the few people who knew even a fraction of the truth about why she was there. "He hit me first," she said simply. "He's a 2-star admiral. You're supposed to be a civilian contractor." "I'm supposed to be a lot of things." Pierce sighed and walked closer. "Let me see your face." Elena turned. The bruise was already forming on her jaw, purple and angry. Her lip had stopped bleeding, but it was swollen and would need attention. "You should go to medical," Pierce said. "I've had worse." "I know you have. That's what worries me." Elena turned back to the mirror and pressed a wet paper towel against her lip. The cold helped, but not much. The physical pain didn't bother her. She'd endured things that would break most people. What bothered her was the anger. 6 years of SEAL training. 6 years of learning to control every emotion, every impulse, every natural human reaction. And right now, every instinct she had was screaming at her to go back out there and put Marcus Harwell in the ground. "He's dirty, Colonel," she said quietly. "You know it. I know it. That's why I'm here." Pierce's jaw tightened. "I know, but the timeline." "The exchange is in 72 hours. Harwell is going to sell classified submarine patrol routes to a foreign operative codenamed Serpent. If that information gets out, every Ohio-class submarine in the Pacific becomes a target. We're talking about nuclear deterrent capabilities. We're talking about thousands of lives. And you're supposed to observe and report, not engage." Elena's eyes met his in the mirror. "He engaged me first." "Elena, my name is not Elena." Her voice had changed, gone cold. "Not really. My name is Ghost. I've been a SEAL since I was 18 years old. I've killed 47 enemy combatants in 4 combat deployments. I have a Medal of Honor that I'm not allowed to wear, and a service record that doesn't exist. I came here to do a job, and one pompous admiral with a power complex isn't going to stop me." Pierce was quiet for a long moment. "Your father would be proud of you," he finally said. The coldness in Elena's eyes flickered, just for a second, just enough to show that somewhere beneath the operator there was still a human being. "My father is dead," she said. "Because of intelligence leaks. Because someone in the military sold information that got his team killed. So no, Colonel, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to find out who's responsible, and I'm going to make sure they pay." Pierce nodded slowly. "What do you need?" "Time, access, and for you to keep Harwell busy while I work." "He's not going to let this go. He'll come after you." Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm counting on it." Admiral Marcus Harwell stood in his office staring out the window at the parade ground below. His hand was still tingling where she'd grabbed him. That grip. That impossible, inhuman grip. Who the hell was she? He'd pulled her file immediately after the ceremony. Elena Vance, 22 years old, Pentagon contractor specializing in tactical assessment. Security clearance so high that half her file was redacted. No military service on record. No combat experience. Nothing that explained how a girl who looked like she should be in college could move like that, could look at him like that. His phone rang. Secure line. "Yes? We have a problem." The voice was cold, foreign accented. Serpent. Harwell's blood pressure spiked. "I'm aware. There's a Pentagon observer on base. I know who she is. The question is whether you can handle her." "She's nobody. Some girl they sent to check boxes." Silence on the other end. Then, She caught your arm in mid-strike, Marcus, in front of 2,000 Marines. Does that sound like nobody to you? Harwell swallowed. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that your casual attitude may have already compromised our arrangement. The exchange happens in 3 days. If she interferes, she won't. How can you be certain? Harwell sat down heavily in his chair. His mind was racing, searching for solutions. Then it came to him. The Marine Raider Assessment, he said slowly. 3 days of the most brutal evaluation in the military. If I can force her into it, force her, how? I'll file a formal complaint. Insubordination, conduct unbecoming, threatening a superior officer. I'll give her a choice. Complete the assessment to prove her credentials, or be arrested and removed from base. Either way, she'll be too busy surviving to notice anything else. Another long pause. Then Serpent laughed softly. Clever, Marcus. Very clever. But be warned, if this fails, there will be consequences. Not just for the operation. For you. The line went dead. Harwell sat in the darkness for a long time, thinking. The girl, Elena, if that was even her real name, was dangerous. He could feel it. But he hadn't survived 3 decades in the Navy by backing down from threats. He picked up his phone and dialed Colonel Pierce's office. Colonel, I want that contractor in my office, now. We have some things to discuss. Elena walked into Harwell's office exactly 30 minutes later. She'd cleaned up, changed into fresh clothes. Still the olive V-neck, still the camo pants, and tied her dark hair back in a simple ponytail. The bruise on her jaw was darker now, impossible to hide. She made no attempt to hide it. Harwell was waiting behind his desk, 2 Marines flanking him like bodyguards. Colonel Pierce stood by the window, his face carefully neutral. Miss Vance, Harwell said, not offering her a seat. I've spent the last hour reviewing the incident on the parade ground, and I've come to a decision. Elena said nothing, just waited. You assaulted a flag officer in front of 2,000 Marines. You interfered with an official ceremony. You demonstrated conduct completely unbefitting someone claiming to represent the Pentagon. I stopped you from hitting me a second time, sir. Harwell's eye twitched. Regardless, I'm filing formal charges. However, given your unique position, I'm prepared to offer an alternative. What kind of alternative? Harwell smiled. It was the smile of a predator who thought he'd cornered his prey. The Marine Raider Assessment. 3 days of physical and mental evaluation. The same test we use to select our most elite operators. If you complete it successfully, I'll drop all charges and allow you to continue your assignment. Pierce stepped forward. Sir, that's completely... I wasn't talking to you, Colonel. Elena's expression didn't change. And if I refuse? Then I'll have you arrested for assaulting a superior officer. You'll be removed from base in handcuffs, your security clearance will be revoked, and whatever little assignment brought you here will be terminated immediately. The room went quiet. Everyone was watching Elena, waiting for her response, waiting for her to crack, to beg, to back down. This was the moment Harwell lived for, the moment when his enemies realized they had no options left. Elena was quiet for exactly 10 seconds. Then she laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It wasn't a defiant laugh. It was the genuine, amused laugh of someone who had just been told a very good joke. What's so funny? Harwell demanded. Nothing, Admiral. I just find it interesting that you think 3 days of physical discomfort is going to intimidate me. She stepped closer to his desk. I'll do your assessment. I'll complete every task, pass every evaluation, and break every record your precious raiders have ever set. And when I'm done, You're going to wish you'd just let me do my job." Harwell's smile faltered. "You're very confident for someone who's never served a day in uniform." Elena leaned in close enough that only he could hear her next words. "Who says I haven't?" She straightened and turned to Pierce. "Colonel, please inform the assessment cadre that I'll report at 0500 tomorrow morning. I assume Admiral Harwell wants to observe personally?" Pierce nodded slowly, his eyes wide. "Good." Elena walked toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Admiral, you might want to ice that wrist. It's going to bruise." She walked out without looking back. Harwell stared at the empty doorway for a long moment. His wrist was throbbing. His face was hot. And somewhere deep in his gut, a voice was screaming at him that he'd just made a terrible, terrible mistake. He silenced it with another sip of coffee. The girl was bluffing. She had to be. Nobody could survive the Raider assessment without extensive military training. By tomorrow night, she'd be broken, bleeding, and begging to go home. He was sure of it. Absolutely sure. Elena didn't go back to her quarters. Instead, she walked to the far edge of the base, where the desert met the ocean and the wind carried the smell of salt and sage. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. She pulled out her phone. Encrypted line. Speed dial 1. "Control, this is Ghost. I need an update." The voice on the other end was familiar. Commander Sarah Mitchell, her handler at Naval Special Warfare. "Ghost, we've been monitoring the situation. Are you compromised?" "Negative, but Harwell's forcing me into the Marine Raider assessment. Starts tomorrow, runs 3 days." Silence. Then, "That's the same window as the exchange." "I know. Can you do both?" Elena watched the sun sink below the horizon. "I don't have a choice. If I withdraw from the assessment, I lose access to the base. If I lose access, Harwell makes the exchange and disappears before we can touch him." "We could extract you. Send another team." "No time. And no one else has my access." She paused. "Besides, this is personal now. Elena, he sold the intelligence that killed my father. I don't have proof yet, but I know it. I can feel it. Harwell is the leak. He's been selling secrets for years, and my dad's team was just collateral damage." Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. "If that's true, if you can prove it." "I will. I just need 3 days." "All right, but Ghost, be careful. Harwell is connected." "If he finds out who you really are." "He won't," Elena's voice hardened. "He sees what everyone sees. A young woman, a civilian, someone to be dismissed and underestimated. That's always been my greatest weapon." "Copy that. We'll monitor from our end. If you need extraction." "I won't." She hung up before Mitchell could respond. The wind picked up, whipping her dark hair around her face. Elena reached under her shirt and pulled out a thin silver chain. On it hung 2 dog tags, scratched and worn. "Vance, Daniel J., Master Chief Petty Officer, Navy SEAL." She pressed them against her lips, feeling the cold metal, remembering the man who had given everything to make her who she was. 3 years, Dad," she whispered. 3 years since you died, and I still don't know why. But I'm going to find out. I promise. And whoever is responsible." Her grip tightened on the tags. "They're going to pay." The stars were coming out now, millions of them, scattered across the darkening sky like diamonds on black velvet. Somewhere up there, Elena liked to think, her father was watching. She hoped he was proud. She hoped he understood. Because what she was about to do, the assessment, the investigation, the confrontation that was coming, it wasn't about duty anymore. It wasn't about orders or missions or national security. It was about justice. It was about family. It was about making sure that no one else's father ever died because of men like Marcus Harwell. Elena tucked the dog tags back under her shirt and turned toward the base. Tomorrow would be brutal. 3 days of hell awaited her, designed to break the strongest men in the military. She smiled grimly. They had no idea what they were dealing with. 0430 hours. Elena stood outside the assessment staging area, dressed in standard-issue PT gear that someone had reluctantly provided. Around her, 15 other candidates milled nervously. All men, all Marine officers, all staring at her like she'd grown a second head. She ignored them. Gunnery Sergeant Cole Mitchell, no relation to her handler, emerged from the main building. 45 years old, Force Recon veteran, built like a tank that had been left out in the sun. His face looked like it had been carved from granite, and his eyes held all the warmth of a winter storm. "Listen up." His voice carried across the morning darkness like a thunderclap. "For the next 72 hours, you belong to me. You will eat when I say eat, sleep when I say sleep, breathe when I say breathe. Anyone who quits will be removed immediately. Anyone who fails will be removed immediately. Anyone who pisses me off will be removed painfully." He walked slowly past the candidates, examining each one like a butcher examining livestock. Then he stopped in front of Elena. "Well, well, what do we have here?" "Candidate Vance, Gunnery Sergeant." "Candidate Vance." He said her name like it tasted bad. "I've been doing this job for 15 years. Never once had a female candidate. Never once had a civilian candidate. And now I've got both, wrapped up in one pretty little package." Elena said nothing, just stood at attention, eyes forward. Mitchell leaned in close. "Let me be clear, Princess. I don't know what strings you pulled to get here. I don't care what important people you know. In my assessment, there are no politics, no special treatment, no mercy. You will be held to the same standard as every Marine on this field. And when you quit, because you will quit, I will personally escort you to the gate." "Understood, Gunnery Sergeant. Do you have anything to say?" Elena finally met his eyes. "Just one thing, Gunnery Sergeant." "What's that?" "I don't quit. Ever." Mitchell stared at her for a long moment. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or the faintest hint of respect. Then it was gone. "We'll see about that." He turned back to the group. "First evolution, 20-mile forced march, 80-pound pack, 4 hours. Anyone who doesn't make the cutoff is done." He checked his watch. "Move out in 5 minutes." The candidates scrambled to gear up. Elena moved to the equipment station, shouldered her pack, exactly 80 pounds, no more, no less, and adjusted the straps with practiced efficiency. One of the other candidates, a captain named Torres, sidled up beside her. "You know this is insane, right? Women aren't built for this kind of punishment." Elena tightened her final strap. "Then I guess she'd better try to keep up." She walked to the starting line without looking back. Mile 15. 3 candidates had already dropped out. 2 more were flagging badly, stumbling along at the back of the pack. Elena was in 3rd place. Her legs were screaming. Her shoulders felt like they were being torn apart by the pack straps. Every breath burned like fire in her lungs. She didn't slow down. Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell drove alongside in a Humvee, watching the candidates with cold assessment. Every few minutes, his eyes would drift to Elena, waiting for her to fall, waiting for her to quit. She never gave him the satisfaction. "Picking up the pace," she called out suddenly, surging forward past the 2 candidates ahead of her. "What the hell are you doing?" one of them gasped. "Finishing first." She opened up her stride, ignoring the agony in every muscle, pushing harder than she had since BUD/S. The desert wind tore at her face. The sun hammered down without mercy. She crossed the finish line with 8 minutes to spare. Mitchell was waiting. His face was unreadable. "Time," he said flatly. 3 hours, 52 minutes. Best female time in the history of this assessment. Elena straightened, breathing hard but controlled. "What's the best time overall?" Mitchell's eyes narrowed. 3:45. The other candidates were still struggling in, but in that moment, it was just the two of them. "Who are you?" Mitchell asked quietly. "Really?" Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm just a civilian contractor, Gunnery Sergeant. Didn't you hear?" She walked past him toward the recovery area. Mitchell watched her go, his mind racing. He'd seen that kind of performance before, that kind of efficiency, that kind of control. But only in one place. The teams. Navy SEALs. He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Yeah, it's Mitchell. I need you to run a deep background check on someone. Name is Elena Vance, Pentagon contractor. And Jim?" He paused, watching Elena's figure disappear into the distance. "Whatever you find, I want to know immediately. Because something about this girl doesn't add up. And I'm going to find out what." Across the base, in his private office, Admiral Marcus Harwell received his first report on the assessment. "She finished the march?" His voice was incredulous. "In under 4 hours?" "Yes, sir," his aide confirmed. "Third fastest time today. Fastest female time." He was being paranoid. She was just some Pentagon paper pusher who happened to be in good shape. That's all. By tomorrow, the real evolutions would begin. Hand-to-hand combat, stress inoculation, sleep deprivation, things that broke men twice her size. She would fail. She had to fail. Because if she didn't, if she completed the assessment and stayed on base, then everything he'd built over the last 5 years was at risk. The deals, the money, the careful web of betrayal that had made him a very wealthy man. He picked up his secure phone and dialed. "It's Harwell. We may need to accelerate our timeline, and we may need to take more direct action regarding our visitor." On the other end, Serpent listened carefully. "What kind of action?" Harwell stared at his reflection in the window. His face was hard. His eyes were cold. "The permanent kind." The phone call from Naval Special Warfare came through at 03:47 hours. Gunnery Sergeant Cole Mitchell stared at the response on his encrypted tablet, reading it 3 times to make sure he wasn't hallucinating. Elena Vance. File classified. Level 7. Access denied. Stop all inquiries immediately. Do not approach subject. Do not discuss with anyone. This message will be deleted in 60 seconds. Level 7. Mitchell had been Force Recon for 20 years. He'd worked with Delta, with CIA Special Activities, with operators so secret they didn't officially exist. He'd never seen a Level 7 classification on anyone. Until now. Until this 22-year-old girl, with dark hair and empty eyes, who had just destroyed his 20-mile march record like it was a morning jog. "Who the hell are you?" he whispered into the darkness. Across the base, Elena was doing push-ups in her quarters. 200. 300. She'd lost count somewhere around 400. Sleep wasn't coming tonight. Too much adrenaline. Too many variables. Too many ways this mission could go wrong. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted text from Commander Mitchell. Harwell made contact with Serpent. Exchange moved up. Now scheduled for Day 3 of assessment, 1400 hours. Location? Supply Building Charlie. You need to be there. Elena read the message twice, then deleted it. Day 3. That was the final evolution of the assessment. The live-fire urban combat exercise. She'd be in the middle of the most intense military evaluation in the country, while Harwell was selling out his nation. Perfect. She smiled grimly and kept doing push-ups. The second day of the assessment began at 0500 with hand-to-hand combat evaluations. Elena stood in the center of the training mat, surrounded by 15 Marine officers who looked at her like she was a lamb walking into a slaughterhouse. The first day had earned her grudging respect from a few of the rest still thought she was a joke. That was about to change. "Combat evaluation," Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell announced, his voice carrying across the training facility. "Each candidate will face 3 opponents, Marine Raider instructors. Full contact, no pads, no mercy. Tap out or knockout ends the round." He turned to Elena. "Candidate Vance, you're first." Of course she was. Elena walked to the center of the mat. Her opponent was already waiting. Staff Sergeant Rivera, 6'2", 220, former Golden Gloves boxer. He was grinning like Christmas had come early. "Nothing personal, sweetheart," he said, bouncing on his toes. "But this is going to hurt." Elena didn't respond, just settled into her stance, relaxed, balanced, waiting. Mitchell blew the whistle. Rivera came in fast, throwing a jab-cross combination that would have knocked most people unconscious. Elena slipped both punches by millimeters, flowed inside his guard, and drove her elbow into his solar plexus with surgical precision. Rivera doubled over, gasping. She didn't give him time to recover. Knee to the face, forearm across the throat, leg sweep that put him on his back, and then she was on top of him, arm locked around his neck in a textbook rear naked choke. 3 seconds later, Rivera tapped. Total time, 11 seconds. The room went dead silent. Elena stood and walked back to her starting position. Her breathing hadn't changed. Her expression hadn't changed. She looked like she'd just finished tying her shoes, not dismantling a trained Marine, in less time than it takes to pour a cup of coffee. "Next," she said quietly. Mitchell stared at her. He'd seen that technique before. That exact sequence. It was SEAL hand-to-hand, advanced level, the kind of thing they only taught at Coronado to operators who'd already proven themselves in combat. He sent his second instructor, Sergeant First Class Dominic Reyes, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, 3 tours in Afghanistan. Reyes lasted 19 seconds. The third instructor, Master Sergeant Thomas Webb, former Army Ranger, lasted 23 seconds. When it was over, Elena stood alone on the mat. 3 unconscious or groaning men scattered around her. And she wasn't even breathing hard. "Time for all 3 opponents," Mitchell announced, his voice slightly hoarse. 53 seconds. New assessment record. Previous record was 4 minutes, 12 seconds. Nobody cheered. Nobody moved. They just stared at Elena like they were seeing her for the first time. Because they were. Captain Torres, the same man who'd told her women weren't built for this, stepped forward slowly. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Elena looked at him with those empty eyes. "My father taught me." "Your father must have been one hell of a soldier." Something flickered in Elena's expression. Pain, loss, love. All of it compressed into a single heartbeat before the mask slammed back down. "He was," she said quietly. "He was the best I ever knew." She walked off the mat without another word. Mitchell watched her go, his phone burning a hole in his pocket. Level 7 classification. SEAL-level combat skills. A father who was apparently military. He needed to know more. But the message had been clear. Stop all inquiries. Do not approach. For the first time in his career, Cole Mitchell decided to disobey a direct order. The stress inoculation phase began at 1300 hours. Sleep deprivation, sensory overload, psychological pressure designed to break even the strongest minds. Candidates were subjected to hours of interrogation, loud noises, disorienting lights, and constant physical harassment. One by one, they started breaking. By hour 6, 4 more candidates had quit. By hour 10, only 7 remained. Elena sat in her isolation cell, hands bound behind her back, hood over her head, music blaring at ear-splitting volume. They'd been at her for 12 hours straight. Different interrogators, different techniques, all designed to find her breaking point. They hadn't found it yet. The door opened. New footsteps, heavier than the instructors, more deliberate. "Remove the hood." The voice was familiar, cold, authoritative. Admiral Marcus Harwell. Light flooded Elena's eyes as the hood came off. She blinked twice, adjusted, and found herself face to face with the man who had slapped her 48 hours ago. "Leave us," Harwell ordered the guards. They hesitated. This wasn't protocol. Candidates weren't supposed to have contact with anyone outside the assessment cadre during stress inoculation. "I said leave us." They left. Harwell pulled up a chair and sat directly in front of Elena, close enough that she could see the vein pulsing in his temple, close enough to smell his expensive cologne. "I've been watching you," he said softly. "The march, the combat evaluations, the way you've handled every challenge they've thrown at you." He leaned closer. "You're not a civilian contractor, are you, Miss Vance?" Elena's face remained blank. "I don't know what you mean, Admiral." "Don't play games with me." His voice hardened. "I've spent 30 years in this Navy. I know an operator when I see one. The way you move, the way you fight, the way you look at people like you're calculating exactly how to kill them." He grabbed her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Who sent you? CIA? DIA? Naval Intelligence?" Elena held his gaze without flinching. "The Pentagon sent me to observe your training protocols. That's all." "Liar." "Prove it." Harwell's grip tightened. "I don't need to prove anything. I'm a 2-star admiral. You're nobody. And if you think completing this assessment is going to protect you, you're wrong. I can make you disappear. I've done it before." Elena's eyes flickered, just for a second, but Harwell caught it. "That got your attention, didn't it?" He smiled coldly. "You think you know things about me. You think you're here to find something, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. I have friends in places you can't imagine, friends who would do anything to protect our arrangement." "What arrangement would that be, Admiral?" Harwell laughed. "Nice try. But I didn't survive this long by being stupid." He released her chin and stood. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to fail this assessment. I don't care how good you are. Tomorrow's evolution will break you, and when it does, you're going to disappear. Quietly. Permanently. No one will ever know what happened to you." He walked toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Miss Vance? That father of yours, the one who taught you to fight." He glanced back over his shoulder. "What was his name again?" Elena's blood ran cold. "Daniel Vance," Harwell said softly. "Master Chief Petty Officer, Navy SEAL. Died in Syria 3 years ago, during a classified operation." He smiled. "Such a tragedy. Intelligence leak, wasn't it? Someone sold his team's location to the enemy. They never found out who." He opened the door. "Sleep well, Miss Vance. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day." The door closed behind him. Elena sat alone in the darkness, her whole body trembling. Not with fear, with rage. Pure, white-hot, uncontrollable rage. He knew. Harwell knew about her father, knew how he died, knew about the intelligence leak, which meant he was involved. Not just suspected, confirmed. Marcus Harwell had sold the information that killed Daniel Vance. Elena's father had died because of the man who had just walked out of this room. She closed her eyes and forced herself to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The same technique her father had taught her when she was 7 years old, crying because the boys at school said girls couldn't be soldiers. Stay cold, baby girl. Stay cold. But the cold wouldn't come. Not this time. This time the fire was too strong. She opened her eyes. Something had changed in them. Something fundamental. The emptiness was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. Purpose. 40 hours into the assessment, and Elena hadn't slept. She didn't need to. The rage was keeping her awake, keeping her sharp, keeping her focused on the single goal that now consumed her entire existence. Marcus Harwell was going to pay, not just for the treason, not just for the secrets he'd sold, but for her father, for Daniel Vance, who had died alone in a Syrian desert because a 2-star admiral had decided that money was worth more than loyalty. The other candidates had noticed the change in her. They kept their distance now, watching her with a mixture of awe and fear. Even Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell seemed unsettled, his usual harsh demeanor softened by something that looked almost like concern. "Candidate Vance," he said during a rare break, "you need to sleep. You've been awake for almost 2 days." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're operating on adrenaline and willpower. That's not sustainable." Elena turned to look at him. Really look at him. "Gunnery Sergeant, do you have children?" The question caught him off guard. 2 daughters, 12 and 15. "Would you die for them?" Without hesitation. "Would you kill for them?" Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. "If someone threatened my girls, yeah, I'd kill for them. I'd burn down the whole world." Elena nodded slowly. "My father felt the same way about me. He spent 18 years teaching me everything he knew. How to shoot, how to fight, how to survive. He made me who I am." She paused. "And then someone took him away from me. Sold information that led to his death. And that someone is still walking around free, wearing a uniform, pretending to be a patriot." Mitchell's face had gone pale. "Candidate Vance, I'm going to find that person, Gunnery Sergeant. And when I do, I'm going to make sure they answer for what they did. Not just to my father, to every operator who's ever died because someone in their own military decided to betray them." She walked away before he could respond. Mitchell stood there for a long time, his mind racing. Level 7 classification. A father who was a SEAL. Accusations of treason against someone on this base. He pulled out his phone and made another call. "This is Mitchell. I need everything you can find on a Master Chief Daniel Vance, Navy SEAL. Died in Syria 3 years ago." He paused. "And cross-reference it with any intelligence leaks that might have been connected to his mission. I don't care what protocols you have to break. I need answers." He hung up and looked toward where Elena had disappeared. Something was very wrong here, and he was going to find out what. The final evolution briefing happened at 0600 on day 3. 6 candidates remained. Elena was the only woman. She was also, statistically, the highest performer in every single category. None of that mattered now. Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell stood in front of the group, his face grimmer than usual. "The final evolution is an urban combat simulation. Live ammunition, real stakes. You'll be divided into 2 teams. One team defends a high-value target in the mock village. One team attacks. Swap roles after 4 hours. Highest combined score wins." He paused, looking at each candidate in turn. "This is the most dangerous evolution of the assessment. People have been injured. People have been killed. If any of you want to withdraw, now is the time." Nobody moved. Mitchell nodded. "Good. Teams will be assigned randomly. Report to the staging area at 0800. Dismissed." The candidates filed out. Elena stayed behind. "Gunnery Sergeant, a word." Mitchell waited until they were alone. "What is it, candidate?" "I know what's happening today." "It's an urban combat simulation. I just explained." "Not the exercise." Elena stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I know about the exchange. Supply Building Charlie, 1400 hours. Mitchell's face went completely blank. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You've been investigating me since the March. You called Naval Special Warfare. You've been asking questions about my father." She held his gaze. "You're not stupid, Gunnery Sergeant. You know something's wrong on this base. You've probably known for a while." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Mitchell spoke. "Who are you? Really?" Elena reached under her shirt and pulled out her father's dog tags. She held them up so Mitchell could read the inscription. "Vance, Daniel J., Master Chief Petty Officer, Navy SEAL." "I'm his daughter," she said quietly, "and I'm here to finish what he started." Mitchell stared at the dog tags, his mind putting the pieces together. The combat skills, the classification, the rage he'd seen building in her eyes over the past 3 days. "You're a SEAL," he said. It wasn't a question. The youngest woman ever to complete BUD/S. Graduated 4 years ago. 47 confirmed kills. Medal of Honor, classified. Call sign, Ghost. Ghost. Mitchell breathed the word like a prayer. "Jesus Christ. You're Ghost. I've heard stories about you. Everyone has. They said you were a legend. They said you might not even be real." "I'm real. And I'm here because Admiral Marcus Harwell has been selling classified information to foreign intelligence for at least 5 years. The exchange today involves submarine patrol routes. If those routes get out, every Ohio-class submarine in the Pacific becomes a target." Mitchell's face had gone white. "Harwell, you're sure?" "Positive. And that's not all." Elena's voice hardened. 3 years ago, he sold the location of a SEAL team operating in Syria. My father's team. They were ambushed. No survivors. Mother of God. I'm going to stop that exchange today. And I'm going to make sure Harwell spends the rest of his life in prison. But I need your help." Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. His whole career had been built on following orders, respecting the chain of command, trusting in the system. And now, a 22-year-old girl was telling him that system was rotten at the highest levels. But he'd seen what she could do. He'd read that classification, and he'd looked into her eyes and seen the truth. "What do you need?" he asked finally. "During the exercise, I need to break away from my team. I need approximately 15 minutes to get to Supply Building Charlie, confirm the exchange, and take Harwell into custody. Can you create a distraction?" "What kind of distraction?" "The kind that keeps everyone busy. The kind that explains why I'm not where I'm supposed to be." Mitchell nodded slowly. "I can do that. But Vance, if this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, we're both finished. Court-martial, prison, everything." Elena put her father's dog tags back under her shirt. "Gunnery Sergeant, my father gave his life for this country. He died believing in the uniform, believing in the people he served with, and one of those people betrayed him." She straightened. "I'm not going to let that stand. I don't care what it costs me." Mitchell looked at her for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. "Your father would be proud of you," he said quietly. Elena shook his hand. Her grip was strong, steady, certain. "I hope so," she said. "I really hope so." She walked out of the briefing room, leaving Mitchell alone with his thoughts. In 6 hours, everything would change. In 6 hours, the truth would finally come out. And in 6 hours, Elena Vance would either complete the mission her father had died for, or join him in whatever came after. The exercise began at exactly 0800 hours. Elena moved through the mock village with her team, weapon raised, senses on high alert. Live ammunition meant real consequences. One mistake could end everything. But her mind wasn't on the exercise. It was on Supply Building Charlie, 500 meters east, where Marcus Harwell would meet Serpent in exactly 6 hours. "Vance, you're on point," Captain Torres called from behind her. Despite his earlier skepticism, 3 days of watching her dominate every evolution had earned his respect. "Lead us to the objective." Elena nodded and pushed forward. She needed to perform well enough to avoid suspicion while keeping track of time. Every minute brought her closer to the moment of truth. Her earpiece crackled. Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell's voice. "All teams, be advised. We have unexpected activity in Sector 7. Possible insurgent reinforcements. Adjust tactics accordingly." That was the signal. Mitchell was setting up his distraction. Elena checked her watch. 0847. 5 hours and 13 minutes until the exchange. The first 3 hours of the exercise were brutal. Elena's team faced wave after wave of opposition force, played by Marine raiders who weren't pulling any punches. Simulated IEDs, ambushes, hostage scenarios, every tactical nightmare they could throw at them. Elena handled each one with mechanical precision. Her team noticed. "How do you stay so calm?" asked Lieutenant Reyes, crouching beside her during a brief lull. "I've done 2 tours in Afghanistan. My hands are still shaking." Elena ejected her magazine, checked her ammunition, reloaded. "You learn to separate." "Separate what?" "The person from the mission." She looked at him with those empty eyes. "The mission is all that matters. Everything else is noise." Reyes stared at her. "That's either the wisest thing I've ever heard, or the saddest." "Maybe both." Her earpiece crackled again. Mitchell's voice, tense this time. All teams. We have a situation in Sector 4. Medical emergency. All evaluators report to the command post immediately." This was it. The distraction. Elena turned to Torres. "Captain, I need to recon the eastern perimeter. I saw movement earlier." Torres frowned. "We should stick together." 5 minutes. I'll catch up." Before he could argue, she was gone. Elena moved fast, using every bit of her SEAL training to cover ground without being seen. 500 meters became 400, 300, 200. Supply. Building Charlie came into view. She slowed, controlled her breathing, and approached from the blind side. No guards visible. Either Harwell was confident in his secrecy, or he'd already cleared the area. Voices from inside, 2 distinct, one American, one foreign. Elena pressed against the wall and listened. "The roots are all here?" The foreign voice, Serpent. "Every Ohio-class patrol pattern for the next 6 months?" "Everything you asked for," Harwell. "Deployment schedules, communication protocols, emergency procedures. This information is worth billions to the right buyer." "And the price?" $5 million, same as always. Half now, half on delivery confirmation. Elena's blood ran cold. Same as always. This wasn't the first exchange. Harwell had been doing this for years, selling out his country piece by piece while wearing the uniform of a patriot. "There's been a complication," Serpent continued. "The woman, the one you struck at the ceremony, My people have been asking questions about her. She's nothing, a Pentagon paper pusher who got lucky in training. Your assessment is incorrect, Admiral. My sources indicate she may be military intelligence. Perhaps worse. Impossible. I checked her file myself. Files can be fabricated. Identities can be manufactured. A pause. I think you should eliminate her before she becomes a problem. Elena's hand tightened on her weapon. They were planning to kill her. I've already made arrangements, Harwell said. After today's exercise, she'll have an unfortunate accident. Training incident. Happens all the time. Good. Now the payment. Elena had heard enough. She moved to the entrance, kicked the door open, and stepped inside with her weapon raised. Admiral Marcus Harwell, you're under arrest for treason, espionage, and conspiracy to commit murder. Two men stared at her in shock. Harwell, in his dress whites, a USB drive in his hand. And across from him, a man Elena had never seen before. Tall, lean, with the cold eyes of a professional killer. Serpent. You, Harwell breathed. How did you... Hands up, both of you, now! Harwell's shock transformed into rage. You stupid little brat. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Elena's voice was ice. You're the man who sold the intelligence that killed my father. Master Chief Daniel Vance, Syria, 3 years ago. For the first time, something like fear flickered in Harwell's eyes. Vance? You're Daniel Vance's, his daughter, and a Navy SEAL. Call sign, Ghost. She stepped closer. 47 confirmed kills, Admiral. Want to be number 48? Serpent moved, fast, faster than Elena expected. His hand came up with a weapon she hadn't seen, firing as he dove for cover. Elena dropped, rolled, returned fire. 2 shots. Both hit center mass. But Serpent kept moving. Body armor. Kill her! Harwell screamed, scrambling behind a crate. Serpent came at her like a snake striking. Close quarters. His specialty. He knocked her weapon aside, drove a fist into her ribs, grabbed for her throat. Elena twisted away, absorbed the blow, countered with an elbow strike that cracked against his jaw. He stumbled but recovered instantly, pulling a knife from his belt. You're good, Serpent said, circling. Better than I expected. You have no idea what I am. He lunged. The knife flashed toward her throat. Elena caught his wrist, redirected the momentum, and used his own force against him. Joint lock. Pressure. The knife clattered to the ground. Serpent growled and broke free, lashing out with a kick that caught her in the stomach. She fell back, gasping, but turned the fall into a roll and came up in a fighting stance. Your father fought the same way, Serpent said suddenly. Elena froze. What? Daniel Vance, Syria. I was there. Serpent smiled coldly. He was good too. Not good enough. I put 2 bullets in his chest while he was trying to drag his wounded teammate to safety. He died begging. Something snapped inside Elena, the cold she'd maintained for 6 years, the control her father had taught her, the discipline that had made her a legend. All of it shattered in a single instant of pure, incandescent rage. She attacked. Not with technique, not with precision, with fury. Serpent was caught off guard by the ferocity of her assault. He blocked the first strike, the second, but the third broke through his guard and crushed his nose. The fourth cracked his orbital bone. The fifth drove into his knees. You killed him! Elena screamed, raining blows down on him. You killed my father! Elena, stop! The voice cut through her rage like a blade. Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell stood in the doorway, weapon drawn, eyes wide. He's down, Mitchell said. It's over. Don't become what they are. Elena stood over Serpent's broken body, fists bloody, chest heaving. The foreign operative was barely conscious, face a ruin of blood and shattered bone. "He killed my father," she whispered. "He told me." "He was there. I know. But this isn't the way." Mitchell moved closer, careful, gentle. "Your father wouldn't want this. You know he wouldn't." Elena stared down at Serpent. It would be so easy. One more strike. One more blow. End the man who had taken everything from her. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "The day killing becomes easy is the day you stop being human. Stay cold, baby girl. Stay cold." She stepped back. "Cuff him," she said, her voice hollow. "And find Harwell." He ran. Mitchell moved quickly, securing Serpent with zip ties. "Base security is already on alert. We'll—" "There!" Elena pointed toward the back exit. Harwell was running, sprinting toward a parked Humvee. She took off after him. Harwell reached the vehicle, yanked open the door, fumbled with the keys. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely function. Come on," he muttered. "Start, damn you!" The driver's side window exploded. Elena's hand shot through the broken glass, grabbed Harwell by the collar, and dragged him out of the vehicle. He hit the ground hard, screaming as glass cut into his face and arms. "Please," he begged, crawling backward. "Please, I can explain." "Explain?" Elena stood over him, bloody and terrifying. "Explain selling out your country? Explain getting my father killed? Explain planning to murder me?" "It wasn't personal. It was business. I needed the money. My father was not business." She grabbed him by the throat and hauled him to his feet. 12 operators dead because of you. 12 families destroyed. 12 heroes who will never come home. "I didn't know they would." "You didn't care." Elena's grip tightened. "You sat in your comfortable office, cashing checks, while men like my father bled out in foreign deserts. You called me a brat. You slapped me in front of 2,000 Marines. You thought I was nothing." She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I am the daughter of Master Chief Daniel Vance. I am a United States Navy SEAL. And you are going to spend the rest of your miserable life in a cell, knowing that a 22-year-old girl brought you down." She released him. Harwell collapsed, sobbing. "You can't prove anything. My lawyers will—" "We have recordings of your entire conversation with Serpent. We have the USB drive with the submarine routes. We have testimony from the foreign operative you've been working with for years." Elena smiled coldly. "Your lawyers are going to need lawyers, Admiral." Military police arrived moments later. MPs surrounded them, weapons drawn, unsure of what they were seeing. A 2-star admiral on the ground, crying. A blood-covered young woman standing over him. A foreign national unconscious nearby. "Stand down!" Colonel Pierce pushed through the crowd. He took one look at the scene and understood. "Secure Admiral Harwell. He's under arrest for espionage and treason." "This is outrageous!" Harwell screamed as they hauled him to his feet. "Do you know who I am? I'll have you all court-martialed. "You have the right to remain silent," Pierce said calmly. "I strongly suggest you exercise it." They dragged him away, still screaming threats and denials. Elena watched him go, feeling nothing. The rage had burned itself out, leaving only emptiness behind. She'd done it. She'd completed the mission. She'd caught her father's killer. So why did she feel so hollow? "Ghost." She turned. A Navy commander she didn't recognize was approaching, flanked by 2 men in civilian suits. Intelligence officers. "Commander Sarah Mitchell," the woman said. "Naval Special Warfare Command. I'm your handler." "I know who you are." Then you know this operation was supposed to be observation only. You weren't authorized to engage. Elena looked at her with tired eyes. He was going to escape. The exchange was happening. I did what had to be done. You exposed yourself, blew your cover, compromised years of intelligence gathering. I also stopped a traitor from selling nuclear submarine routes to a foreign power. I captured an enemy operative responsible for multiple American deaths, and I avenged my father. Elena straightened. Court-martial me if you want. I'd do it again. Commander Mitchell stared at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. That's exactly what your father would have said. She extended her hand. Well done, Ghost. Well done. Elena shook her hand, too exhausted to feel much of anything. What happens now? Now, we clean up. Harwell will be processed through military intelligence. Serpent will be interrogated for everything he knows. And you, Commander Mitchell paused, you'll be debriefed, evaluated, and then reassigned. To where? That depends on you. After today, you can write your own ticket. DEVGRUCIA. Special Activities. Anywhere you want to go. Elena thought about it. Thought about the future she'd earned with blood and fury. Thought about her father, who had died believing she would carry on his legacy. I want to go back to the teams, she said finally. SEAL Team 7, my father's old unit. Commander Mitchell nodded. I'll make the arrangements. She turned to leave, then paused. There's one more thing. What? The Marines here, the ones who watched Harwell slap me, the ones who didn't know what I was. Elena looked back toward the parade ground, where 2,000 men and women were still processing what had happened. I want to address them before I go. That's unusual. I don't care about usual. I care about making sure they understand what happened here, what really happened. Commander Mitchell considered for a moment. I'll speak with Colonel Pierce. No promises. Thank you. The commander walked away, leaving Elena alone. Gunnery Sergeant Cole Mitchell, the other Mitchell, approached slowly. He looked shaken, like a man who had seen something that fundamentally altered his understanding of the world. Is it true? He asked quietly. Everything you said? Your father? The intelligence leak? All of it? Elena nodded. And you're really Ghost? The Ghost? That's my call sign. Mitchell shook his head in disbelief. I've been doing this job for 20 years. I thought I'd seen everything. But you? He paused. You're something else entirely. I'm just a daughter who loved her father, Elena said quietly. Everything else is details. She walked away, leaving Mitchell standing alone. There was blood on her hands, literally and figuratively. Serpent's blood. The blood of all the people who had died because of Harwell's betrayal. Her father's blood, finally acknowledged after 3 years of silence. She found a quiet corner and pulled out her father's dog tags. The metal was warm from her body heat, worn smooth from years of handling. She pressed them to her lips. I did it, Dad, she whispered. I found them. The men who killed you. And I stopped them. No response, of course. Just the wind and the distant sounds of chaos as the base tried to process the earthquake that had just shaken its foundations. I wanted to kill him. Serpent. I wanted it so badly. Every part of me screamed to finish it. She paused. But I heard your voice, in my head, telling me to stay cold, telling me that revenge isn't justice, that killing isn't strength. The dog tags glinted in the afternoon sun. I listened, Dad. I stepped back. I let the system handle it. A tear traced down her cheek. I hope that makes you proud. I hope somewhere, You're watching, and you understand." The wind picked up, rustling her dark hair, carrying the smell of dust and gunpowder. For just a moment, Elena could have sworn she felt something. A presence, a warmth. Her father's hand on her shoulder, the way it used to be when she was a little girl. She closed her eyes and let herself feel it. When she opened them again, the feeling was gone. But something had changed. The hollow emptiness in her chest had been replaced by something else. Peace. Not complete peace. Not yet. There was still too much to do, too much to process, too many wounds that needed time to heal. But a start, a foundation. She was Elena Vance. She was Ghost. She was a Navy SEAL and the daughter of a hero. And she was finally ready to move forward. Colonel Pierce found her an hour later. His face was grave but respectful. "It's arranged," he said. "Tomorrow morning, 0800. The entire base will assemble for a formal announcement. Admiral Harwell's arrest, the treason charges, all of it." He paused. "And Commander Mitchell has arranged for you to address the Marines, if you still want to." "I do." "Can I ask why? After everything they saw, everything they didn't do, why do you want to talk to them?" Elena looked at him with those dark eyes, no longer empty, but filled with something new. Purpose, clarity, determination. "Because they need to understand. Not just what Harwell did, but what they saw when he slapped me. What they assumed when they looked at a young woman in civilian clothes. What they were wrong about." "And what was that?" Elena smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd shown since arriving at Camp Pendleton. "They looked at me and saw a victim. Tomorrow, they'll understand that I was never the prey." Her smile sharpened. "I was the hunter, and I always have been." The night before the assembly, Elena couldn't sleep. She lay on her bunk in the temporary quarters they'd assigned her, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything that had happened over the past 72 hours. The slap, the assessment, the fight, Serpent's broken face, Harwell's screams as they dragged him away. Her phone buzzed. Encrypted message from Commander Mitchell. "Interrogation update. Serpent talking. Harwell's network bigger than we thought. 7 intelligence leaks over 5 years. 12 operators killed, including your father's team. Full briefing when you return to Coronado." Elena read the message 3 times. 12 operators. 12 families. 12 heroes who would never come home. Her father was one of them. But there were 11 others. 11 names she didn't know. 11 stories she'd never heard. 11 daughters and sons and wives and husbands who had lost someone because Marcus Harwell decided money was worth more than honor. She got up and walked to the window. The base was quiet. Most personnel had been confined to quarters while the investigation continued. Military police patrolled in pairs, their flashlights cutting through the darkness like searchlights. Somewhere in a detention cell, Harwell was waiting for transport to a military prison. Somewhere in a medical facility, Serpent was recovering from his injuries under heavy guard, spilling secrets in exchange for leniency. Justice was being served. So why did Elena feel so empty? Her phone buzzed again. Different number this time. She didn't recognize it. She answered anyway. "Is this Elena Vance?" The voice was female, older, trembling slightly. "Who is this?" "My name is Margaret Chen. My husband was Petty Officer First Class David Chen. He was on your father's team, in Syria." Elena's breath caught in her throat. "Mrs. Chen, I saw the news. They're saying an admiral was arrested for treason. They're saying he sold information that got soldiers killed." The woman's voice cracked. Was David one of them? Was my husband murdered by his own people? Elena closed her eyes. Yes, ma'am. I believe he was. Silence on the other end. Then quiet sobbing. I waited 3 years for answers, Margaret Chen whispered. 3 years of being told it was classified, that I didn't have clearance, that I should just accept that David died serving his country. And the whole time, the man who killed him was walking around free. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be angry. The woman's voice hardened through her tears. Make them pay, all of them, every single person who knew what was happening and did nothing. Promise me. I promise. Thank you. A pause. Your father was a hero. David talked about him all the time. Said Master Chief Vance was the best operator he'd ever served with. Said he'd follow him anywhere. Elena couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. Take care of yourself, Miss Vance, and thank you for giving us the truth, even if it hurts. The line went dead. Elena sat in the darkness for a long time, holding the phone, letting the tears fall. 11 other families, 11 other calls she would probably receive. 11 other broken hearts that deserved answers. She'd given them justice. Now she had to give them closure. The assembly began at exactly 800. 2,000 Marines stood in perfect formation, the same formation they'd held 5 days ago when Admiral Harwell had slapped a young woman in civilian clothes. The same parade ground, the same gray morning light. But everything else was different. Colonel Pierce stood at the reviewing stand, flanked by Commander Sarah Mitchell and 2 representatives from Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Behind them, a screen had been set up, displaying official Navy insignia. Marines of Camp Pendleton, Pierce began, his voice carrying across the silent field. You have been assembled to receive an official briefing on events that occurred on this base over the past several days. What I am about to tell you is now declassified. It will be difficult to hear, but you need to hear it. He paused, gathering himself. 5 days ago, Rear Admiral Marcus Harwell struck a woman in front of this formation. You all witnessed it. What you did not know, what you could not have known, is that the woman he struck was not a civilian contractor. She was Lieutenant Elena Vance, United States Navy SEAL, call sign Ghost. A murmur rippled through the formation. Ghost. Even Marines had heard that name. Stories whispered in bars and barracks, a legend that most people assumed was myth. Lieutenant Vance was operating undercover, investigating intelligence leaks that had resulted in the deaths of American service members. Her investigation led to Admiral Harwell, who has now been arrested and charged with treason, espionage, and conspiracy to commit murder. The murmur became a roar. Pierce let it continue for a moment before raising his hand. Admiral Harwell sold classified information to foreign intelligence services for over 5 years. His actions directly resulted in the deaths of at least 12 American operators, including members of SEAL Team 7 during a mission in Syria 3 years ago. Pierce's voice hardened. One of those operators was Master Chief Daniel Vance, Lieutenant Vance's father. The formation went silent. Pierce stepped back from the microphone. Lieutenant Vance has requested the opportunity to address you directly. I have granted that request. He turned toward the side of the platform. Lieutenant, the floor is yours. Elena walked out onto the reviewing stand. She was wearing her olive V-neck shirt and camo pants, the same clothes she'd worn when Harwell slapped her. The bruise on her jaw had faded to yellow and purple. The cut on her lip was healing, but still visible. She looked exactly like what they'd assumed she was, a young civilian who had wandered onto a military base. She looked nothing like the legend she actually was. 2,000 pairs of eyes watched her approach the microphone. 2,000 Marines who had witnessed her humiliation, who had assumed she was weak, who had done nothing. Elena let the silence stretch. Then she spoke. 5 days ago, I stood right there. She pointed to the exact spot in the formation. 28 yards from this platform. Admiral Harwell walked up to me, called me a brat, and struck me across the face hard enough to draw blood. You all saw it. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Not one of you did anything. The words hung in the air like an accusation. I'm not here to blame you, Elena continued. You did what you were trained to do. You followed the chain of command. You respected rank. You trusted that the system would work. She paused. But I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember what it felt like to watch a 2-star admiral assault a subordinate and do nothing. She began walking slowly across the platform. Marcus Harwell spent 33 years in the Navy. He had medals, commendations, the respect of everyone who served under him. And the whole time, he was selling out his country, selling secrets that got people killed, getting rich while heroes bled out in foreign deserts. Her voice hardened. And nobody questioned him. Nobody looked closer. Nobody wondered if maybe the man in the fancy uniform wasn't worthy of the trust placed in him. She stopped at the center of the platform. My father was Master Chief Daniel Vance, Navy SEAL. 22 years of service, 4 combat deployments, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. He was the best man I ever knew, and he died 3 years ago because Marcus Harwell sold his location to a foreign operative for money. Elena's eyes swept across the formation. For 3 years, I didn't know why my father died. I was told it was classified. I was told to accept it. I was told to move on. Her jaw tightened. I refused. I became a SEAL because he was a SEAL. I trained until I was better than anyone expected. I took missions no one else would take. And eventually, I found the truth. She pulled her father's dog tags from under her shirt and held them up. This is all I have left of him. 2 pieces of metal with his name on them. That's what remains of a man who gave everything for his country, while the people who were supposed to protect him were busy betraying everything he stood for. The Marines were absolutely motionless. Elena could see some of them with tears in their eyes, others with jaws clenched in anger. Good. They should be angry. I'm not here to lecture you about loyalty or honor or duty. You know those words better than most people ever will. I'm here to tell you something simpler. She lowered the dog tags. Never stop questioning. Never stop looking. Never assume that rank equals righteousness or that the chain of command is infallible. She looked directly at the female Marines scattered throughout the formation. And for those of you who've been told you don't belong, who've been called sweetheart or princess or brat by men who assumed your gender made you weak, remember this moment. Remember that the woman Admiral Harwell dismissed as a little girl playing soldier is the one who brought him down. Not with anger, not with complaints, with excellence, with determination, with results. Elena came to attention and saluted the formation. I am Lieutenant Elena Vance, call sign Ghost, and I am proud to serve alongside every one of you. 2,000 Marines saluted back, and then, breaking every protocol of military formation, they began to applaud. The sound rolled across the parade ground like thunder. Clapping, cheering, men and women who had watched her humiliation now standing in witness to her triumph. Elena held the salute until the noise died down. Then she turned and walked off the platform. She didn't look back. Colonel Pierce caught up with her behind the reviewing stand. "That was one hell of a speech," he said quietly. "It was the truth, nothing more." "The truth can be powerful." He handed her an envelope. "This came for you this morning, from Harwell's Personal Effects. NCIS found it during their search and thought you should have it." Elena frowned and opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten. The paper was old, yellowed at the edges. The handwriting was familiar. Her heart stopped. Where did this come from? Harwell's safe. Apparently he kept trophies. Letters from the families of people he'd compromised. Reminders of his power. Pierce's voice was thick with disgust. "This one was addressed to you. It was never sent." Elena unfolded the letter with trembling hands. "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, I didn't make it home. I'm sorry, baby girl. I wanted to be there for your graduation, your wedding, your children. I wanted to grow old and embarrassing and tell stories about the old days until you begged me to stop. But sometimes the mission takes everything. That's the price we pay. I need you to know something important, something I should have told you years ago, but never found the words. You are the best thing I ever did. Not the missions, not the medals, not the legacy. You. From the moment you were born, everything I did was for you. Every deployment was about coming home to you. Every battle was about making a world where you could be safe. And I know, I've always known, that you would follow me into this life. I saw it in your eyes when you were 7 years old, watching me come home from deployment. I saw the determination, the hunger, the same fire that drove me. I tried to prepare you, taught you everything I knew, made you strong, capable, resilient, not because I wanted you to be a warrior, but because I knew you would become one, whether I helped or not. And if my daughter was going to fight, she was going to be the best. Stay cold, baby girl. That's what I always told you. But I need you to understand what I really meant. Stay cold means control your emotions in battle, but it doesn't mean become cold. Don't let this life turn you into stone. Don't let the killing and the loss and the darkness take away your humanity. Be the warrior who can destroy her enemies and still feel compassion. Be the operator who finishes the mission and still weeps for the fallen. Be the soldier who serves with excellence and still loves with her whole heart. That's the balance. That's the secret. That's what separates the true warriors from the broken ones. I love you more than words can say. I am proud of you in ways that language cannot capture. And wherever I am, whether it's heaven or oblivion or something in between, I will be watching you, cheering you on, believing in you. You are Elena Vance. You are my daughter, and you are going to do extraordinary things. Stay cold, stay controlled, stay compassionate, and never, ever stop fighting. With all my love, Dad. P.S. Don't let the bastards win. Whatever they throw at you, and they will throw everything, don't let them win. You're stronger than all of them combined. Elena read the letter 3 times. Tears streamed down her face, silent and unstoppable. Her whole body shook with the effort of containing the emotions that threatened to tear her apart. Her father had written this, before his final mission, knowing he might not come back. And Harwell, that monster, had kept it, had hidden it, had denied her this final message from the man she loved most in the world. For 3 years this letter had existed. For 3 years she could have had these words, this guidance, this love. Pierce stood nearby, silent, giving her space. He was a good man, Elena finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The best I ever knew. I know. I served with him, briefly. Back in 2015, Pierce paused. He talked about you all the time, said his daughter was going to change the world someday. Elena folded the letter carefully and pressed it against her heart. He was right, she said softly. I'm just getting started. The next few hours passed in a blur of debriefings and paperwork. Elena learned the full scope of Harwell's betrayal. 7 separate intelligence leaks spanning 5 years. 12 American operators killed as a direct result of his treason. Millions of dollars funneled through offshore accounts, a network of contacts in 3 different foreign intelligence services. And at the center of it all, one man's greed and one man's willingness to sell out everything he'd sworn to protect. Serpent, real name Viktor Kozlov, was talking freely now, trading information for the possibility of avoiding execution. He'd confirmed everything Elena suspected, and more. Her father's mission in Syria had been compromised from the start. Harwell had sold the team's insertion point, their timeline, their objectives. The ambush that killed them had been planned weeks in advance. Daniel Vance never had a chance. Neither did the 11 men who died with him. Elena sat in the briefing room long after everyone else had left, staring at the wall of photographs. 12 faces, 12 names, 12 heroes. Master Chief Daniel Vance, Petty Officer First Class David Chen, Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Williams, Lieutenant Commander James Hartley. The list went on. She'd memorized every name, every face, every detail of their service records. They deserved to be remembered. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Gunnery Sergeant Cole Mitchell stood in the doorway, looking uncertain. "Lieutenant Vance, can I have a moment?" "Come in." Mitchell entered slowly, his usual commanding presence subdued. He looked like a man who'd had the foundation of his worldview cracked open. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "When you showed up for the assessment, I thought you were a joke. Some political appointee who'd gotten lucky. I was determined to break you. You weren't wrong to be skeptical." "I was wrong about everything," he shook his head. "I've been doing this job for 20 years. I thought I could read people. I thought I knew what warriors looked like." He met her eyes. "I had no idea." Elena gestured to the chair across from her. Mitchell sat. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Go ahead." "During the interrogation phase, when Harwell came to see you," Mitchell paused, "he mentioned your father, taunted you about the intelligence leak. How did you not kill him right there?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. "You asked me once if I would kill for my children," she finally said. "I answered yes. But here's the thing about killing, Gunnery Sergeant. It's easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. Point and pull the trigger. Watch someone die. Anyone can do it." She looked at the photographs on the wall. "What's hard is choosing not to. What's hard is having the power to destroy someone and deciding they're not worth it. What's hard is staying human when every instinct screams at you to become a monster." Mitchell nodded slowly. "Your father taught you that." "He did, and it took me a long time to understand what he meant." Elena stood and walked to the wall of photographs. "My father killed people, enemies of our country, men who would have killed innocents if he hadn't stopped them. He never enjoyed it, never bragged about it. He carried every death with him, every single day." She touched his photograph. "That's what made him a true warrior. Not the body count, the weight. The understanding that violence is sometimes necessary, but never good. That every life taken is a tragedy, even when it's justified." Mitchell stood as well. "I've got 2 daughters at home, 12 and 15. They're starting to ask about my work, what I do, who I am." He paused. "What do I tell them?" Elena turned to face him, Tell them the truth, that their father serves because he loves them, that he does hard things so they don't have to, that being a warrior isn't about being tough or scary or dangerous. It's about protecting the people who can't protect themselves. She extended her hand. You're a good man, Gunnery Sergeant Mitchell. Your daughters are lucky to have you. Mitchell shook her hand. His grip was firm, respectful, completely different from the contemptuous pressure he'd applied at their first meeting. Thank you, Lieutenant, for everything. He paused at the door. What happens to you now? I go back to the teams, pick up where my father left off. Keep doing the job until they tell me to stop. And after that? Elena smiled sadly. There is no after. Not for people like me. This is who I am. This is who I'll always be. Mitchell nodded once and left. Elena stood alone in the briefing room, surrounded by the faces of the dead. She pulled out her father's letter, read it one more time, and pressed it to her heart. I understand now, Dad, she whispered. I understand everything. Stay cold, stay controlled, stay compassionate. That was the legacy. That was the mission. That was the warrior's way. And tomorrow, Elena Vance would begin the next chapter of her story. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Elena returned to Coronado, to the Naval Special Warfare Compound where her father had trained, where legends were forged, and ordinary people became extraordinary. She walked the same corridors he had walked, slept in the same barracks he had slept in, pushed her body to the same limits he had pushed his. But she was different now. The rage that had driven her for 3 years was gone, replaced by something deeper. Purpose. Clarity. Understanding of who she was and what she was meant to do. Commander Sarah Mitchell had kept her promise. Elena was assigned to SEAL Team 7, her father's old unit, as a platoon leader. The position came with a new call sign, Reaper 7. Her father's call sign had been Wraith. Her mentor, Cole Brennan, who had died 2 years before her father, had been Reaper 6. Now she was Reaper 7, the next link in a chain of warriors that stretched back decades. The responsibility terrified her. She embraced it anyway. Listen up, Elena said, standing in front of her 8-person team for the first time. I know what you're thinking. You're looking at me and seeing a 22-year-old woman who got her position because of politics, because of what happened at Camp Pendleton, because someone decided it would look good to have a female platoon leader. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. But she could read their faces. She was exactly right. Here's what I want you to understand. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care if you respect me. I don't care if you like me. The only thing I care about is bringing every single one of you home alive. She walked slowly past them, meeting each pair of eyes. My father was Master Chief Daniel Vance. Some of you served with him. Some of you trained under him. He taught me everything I know about being an operator. And the most important thing he taught me was this. The mission is not the objective. The mission is the team. The mission is each other. She stopped at the end of the line. I will never ask you to do something I won't do myself. I will never leave you behind. I will never put glory or recognition ahead of your lives. Her voice hardened. And in return, I expect the same. We are a team. We operate as one. Anyone who has a problem with that can request a transfer right now. Silence. Then Chief Petty Officer Marcus Webb, a 15-year veteran who had served with her father, stepped forward. Ma'am, I've got a question. Go ahead. Your father used to say something before every mission. 3 words. Do you know what they were? Elena's throat tightened. Stay cold. Stay controlled. Stay compassionate. Webb nodded slowly. He said those words to me in Fallujah, right before we kicked down a door that had 6 insurgents behind it. I was 19 years old and scared out of my mind. Those words saved my life. He came to attention and saluted. If you're half the operator your father was, I'll follow you anywhere. One by one, the other team members saluted. Elena saluted back, blinking away the moisture in her eyes. All right then, she said, her voice steady despite the emotion churning inside her. Let's get to work. The call came 3 weeks later. High-value target extraction, South China Sea. An American intelligence asset had been compromised and was being held in a hostile facility. Extraction window, 48 hours. After that, the asset would be moved to a location they'd never be able to reach. Elena gathered her team in the briefing room. This is Nathaniel Cross, she said, displaying a photograph on the screen. CIA operative, 20 years undercover in the region. He has information critical to national security. She paused. 3 days ago, his cover was blown. He's currently being held in a fortified compound approximately 50 miles inland. Security is heavy. Extraction will be difficult. Difficult? Petty Officer Sarah Chen asked. Or impossible? There's no such thing as impossible, just varying degrees of challenging. Elena pulled up the tactical display. We'll insert via submarine, travel overland through hostile territory, breach the compound, extract Cross, and exfiltrate to a pickup point on the coast. Total mission time, approximately 18 hours. What's our backup if things go wrong? Webb asked. There is no backup. We're operating in denied territory. If we get compromised, we're on our own until extraction. The team exchanged glances. This was the kind of mission that made or broke careers. The kind of mission that got people killed. Any questions? Silence. Good. We deploy in 6 hours. Get your gear ready. As the team filed out, Webb lingered behind. Ma'am, can I speak freely? Always. This mission is a meat grinder. You know that, right? Everything that can go wrong probably will. Intel on hostile positions is 3 days old. Extraction routes go through active patrol zones, and the compound itself is a fortress. I'm aware. So why take it? There are other teams, more experienced operators who... Who what? Elena cut him off. Who have more to lose? Who would approach this mission with more caution? She shook her head. This isn't about proving anything. It's about doing the job. Nathaniel Cross has spent 20 years serving his country. He's got a wife and 2 kids who think he's a businessman who travels a lot. They're sitting at home right now, wondering why Daddy hasn't called. Webb was quiet. We took an oath, Chief, to protect and defend. That means everyone, even the ones no one else wants to save. Elena gathered her materials. Now get your gear ready. We have work to do. The insertion went perfectly. The team emerged from the water 2 miles off the coast, made their way inland through dense jungle, and reached the staging point without detection. 8 operators, moving like shadows through hostile territory. Elena checked her watch. 0247 hours. They were ahead of schedule. Ghost Actual to Overwatch, she whispered into her comms. We're at phase line Alpha, proceeding to objective. Copy, Ghost Actual. Be advised, satellite shows increased activity at the compound. They may be preparing to move the asset. Understood. We're accelerating timeline. Elena signaled her team forward. They moved in 2x2 formation, each operator covering their assigned sector. Decades of training distilled into perfect, wordless coordination. 2 hours later, they reached the compound perimeter. Elena studied the layout through her night vision optics. Guard towers at each corner. Roving patrols every 15 minutes. At least 30 armed hostiles visible. It's worse than Intel suggested, Webb murmured beside her. It always is. Plan? Elena was quiet for a moment, calculating angles, timing, possibilities. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Every mission is a puzzle. Your job is to find the solution before the enemy realizes you're solving it. Chen, Rodriguez, you take the North Tower. Silenced weapons only. Webb, Carter, South Tower. Thompson, Vasquez, you're on patrol intercept. Kim, you're with me. We're going through the front door. The front door? Kim asked incredulously. Ma'am, that's unexpected, which is exactly why it'll work. Elena checked her weapon. Synchronize in 3 minutes. On my mark, towers go down simultaneously. Patrol intercept takes out the roving guards. Kim and I breach the main entrance during the chaos. Everyone else provides covering fire and secures the exit route. And if Cross isn't in the main building? He is. Intel shows heat signatures consistent with imprisonment in the central structure. They're keeping him close. Elena looked at her team. Any other questions? Silence. Good. Let's bring our guy home. The assault began at 0317. 2 shots, perfectly synchronized, dropped the guards in the north and south towers before they could raise an alarm. Moments later, the roving patrol went down. 3 hostiles neutralized before they knew they were under attack. Elena and Kim moved. The main entrance was guarded by 2 men with automatic weapons. Elena took the one on the left with a single shot to the head. Kim dropped the other a heartbeat later. They were inside. Contact right, Kim shouted. 3 hostiles emerged from a side corridor. Elena dove for cover, returned fire, dropped 2 of them. Kim got the 3rd. Moving! They pushed deeper into the compound. More contacts, more firefights. The element of surprise was gone now, replaced by the brutal calculus of close-quarters combat. Ghost Actual, this is Webb. We've got reinforcements incoming from the east, at least a dozen. Hold them off. We're almost to the target. Elena kicked open a reinforced door and found herself face-to-face with 4 armed guards surrounding a bruised, beaten man in a chair. Nathaniel Cross. Drop your weapons, one of the guards screamed in accented English. Drop them, or he dies. The guard had his pistol pressed against Cross's temple. The other 3 had their weapons trained on Elena and Kim. Standoff. You're not going to shoot him, Elena said calmly. He's worth too much to you. The information in his head is worth millions. You kill him, you lose everything. We'll kill you instead. Try it. The guard's finger tightened on the trigger. Elena moved. It was the same technique she'd used against Serpent, the same impossible speed that had dismantled 3 Marine instructors in under a minute. But this time, it wasn't anger driving her. It was training, discipline, the cold, controlled precision her father had spent 18 years drilling into her. 2 shots. 3. 4. 4 bodies hit the ground. Elena stood in the center of the room, weapon still raised, smoke curling from her barrel. Kim was staring at her with wide eyes. Holy shit, he breathed. Elena holstered her weapon and moved across. Mr. Cross, I'm Lieutenant Vance, United States Navy. We're here to take you home. Cross looked up at her through swollen eyes. You're a woman. I get that a lot. She cut his restraints with her knife. Can you walk? I think so. Good. We're leaving. Now. They moved. The exfiltration was chaos. Hostile reinforcements poured in from multiple directions. Elena's team was outnumbered 3-1, fighting a running battle through the compound and into the jungle beyond. I'm hit! Thompson's voice crackled over the comms. Elena's blood ran cold. How bad? Through and through, on my leg. I can still move, but I'm slowing down. Webb, Carter, assist Thompson. Everyone else, keep moving. We need to reach the extraction point in the next 40 minutes, or we miss our window. They pushed through the jungle, cross-supported between two operators, Thompson limping along with help from Webb and Carter. Hostile patrols were everywhere now, the whole region alerted to their presence. 20 minutes to extraction. Ghost Actual, this is Overwatch. Be advised, hostiles are moving to block your extraction route. You've got approximately 15 contacts between you and the beach. Copy, Overwatch. We'll punch through. 10 minutes to extraction. Elena stopped her team at the edge of a clearing. Beyond it, she could see the beach. Safety. The submarine waiting offshore. Everything they'd been fighting for. Between them and that beach stood a dozen armed hostiles. "We don't have time to go around," Webb said grimly. "I know. And Thompson can't move fast enough for a direct assault." "I know that too. So what do we do?" Elena looked at her team. 8 operators who had followed her into hell. Nathaniel Cross, battered but alive. Thompson, wounded but still fighting. Her father's words echoed in her mind. The mission is not the objective. The mission is the team. "I'm going to create a distraction," she said quietly. "When the hostiles focus on me, you punch through to the extraction point." "That's suicide," Kim protested. "It's necessary." "Ma'am, that's an order, petty officer." Elena checked her weapon. "You have one job. Get Cross and the team to that submarine." "I'll catch up when I can." Webb stepped forward. "Your father wouldn't want this." "My father would do exactly what I'm doing. He'd put his team first. He'd make the sacrifice." Elena met Webb's eyes. "That's what warriors do." She didn't wait for a response. She was already moving. Elena emerged from the jungle 50 meters to the right of her team's position, firing as she ran. The hostiles turned toward her, exactly as she'd planned. "Contact! Contact!" Bullets tore through the air around her. She dropped 2 hostiles, then 3, but there were too many. She took cover behind a fallen tree, returning fire, drawing their attention away from her team. Through the chaos, she heard Webb's voice in her earpiece. "We're through! We're at the extraction point!" Relief flooded through her. They'd made it. "Get Cross on the sub," she ordered, her voice steady despite the rounds impacting around her. "Don't wait for me." "Ma'am, we're not leaving you." "That's an order, Chief. The mission is—" A bullet slammed into her shoulder. The impact spun her around, dropping her to one knee. Pain exploded through her body, white-hot and overwhelming. Blood poured from the wound, soaking her uniform. "Ghost Actual is hit!" Kim's voice, panicked now. "I repeat, Ghost Actual is hit!" Elena gritted her teeth and forced herself back up. She'd been shot before. She'd keep fighting. She raised her weapon and dropped another hostile. Then another. But there were still 5 left, and she was losing blood fast. Her vision was starting to blur. Her reactions were slowing. "Stay cold, baby girl." Her father's voice, clear as day. "Stay cold." She took a breath, centered herself, became the weapon she'd been trained to be. 3 more hostiles fell in rapid succession. 2 left. They were advancing on her position now, sensing weakness. Elena tried to raise her weapon, but her arm wouldn't cooperate. Too much blood loss. Too much damage. "This is it," she thought. "This is how it ends." Then she heard the shots. Not from in front of her, from behind. Webb and Kim emerged from the jungle like avenging angels, weapons blazing. The last 2 hostiles went down before they could even turn around. "What are you doing?" Elena gasped as they reached her. "I told you to go." "With all due respect, ma'am," Webb said, pulling her to her feet. "You can court-martial me later. Right now, we're getting you to that submarine." They half-carried, half-dragged her to the beach. The extraction craft was waiting, Cross and the rest of the team already aboard. Elena collapsed against the railing as the boat pulled away from shore. The pain was incredible. waves of agony rolling through her with every heartbeat. "Medic!" Kim shouted. "She's losing too much blood!" Hands pressed against her wound. Someone was talking to her, asking her to stay awake. The world was fading in and out. "Hey!" Webb's face appeared above her, blurry and concerned. "Stay with me, Lieutenant. That's an order." Elena tried to smile. "Since when do chiefs give orders to officers?" "Since officers do stupid things like sacrifice themselves for their teams." Webb's voice cracked. "Your father would kick my ass if I let you die." "Then I guess you better not let me die." She closed her eyes, surrendering to the darkness, trusting her team to bring her home. Elena woke in a hospital bed 3 days later, Coronado Naval Medical Center. She knew the ceiling tiles well. She'd been here before, after a training accident during Bud/S. Commander Sarah Mitchell was sitting beside her bed, reading a file. "Welcome back," Mitchell said, not looking up. "You had us worried for a while. The bullet nicked an artery. You lost nearly 2 pints of blood before the medic stabilized you." Elena tried to sit up, winced, and gave up. "The team? Everyone's fine. Cross is already being debriefed by CIA. Thompson's leg will heal completely. No other casualties." Mitchell finally looked at her. "You did it, Lieutenant. Mission success. At what cost? That's always the question, isn't it?" Mitchell closed her file. "For what it's worth, your team thinks you're a hero." Webb has been telling everyone who'll listen about how you drew fire to save them. The story's already spreading through the community. "I don't want to be a hero. I just want to do my job." "That's what makes you one." Elena stared at the ceiling. "My father did the same thing, you know. His last mission. He could have made it to extraction. Instead, he went back for a wounded teammate." "I know. I read the reports. He died saving someone else's life." "And now I almost did the same thing." Elena's voice cracked. "Is that our legacy? The Vances die so others can live?" Mitchell was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled something from her pocket and placed it on Elena's chest. A medal. Navy Cross. "This isn't about death, Lieutenant. It's about what you're willing to give. Your father gave everything. You almost did. But the difference is, you're still here." Mitchell stood. "The question now is, what do you do with that?" She walked to the door, then paused. "Your team is waiting outside. They've been here for 3 days straight, rotating shifts. That's what you built in 3 weeks. That's what your leadership created." She smiled. "Your father would be proud, Elena. More proud than words can say." She left. Elena lay there for a long time, holding the medal, feeling its weight. Her father was gone. She'd accepted that now. The rage had finally burned itself out, replaced by something more sustainable. Love. Memory. The determination to carry on his legacy. The door opened and her team filed in. 8 faces, exhausted but relieved. "Ma'am," Webb said, his voice gruff, "you look like hell." "Thanks, Chief. I feel like it too." Nervous laughter. The tension in the room eased slightly. "We wanted you to know something," Chen said, stepping forward. "What you did out there, going out alone, drawing their fire. That was the bravest thing any of us have ever seen." "It was stupid." "Maybe, but it was also what a true leader would do. You put us first. You were willing to die so we could live." Chen's voice thickened. "We'll follow you anywhere, Lieutenant. Anywhere." The others nodded. Webb. Kim. Thompson, on crutches but standing tall. Rodriguez. Carter. Vasquez. Her team. Her family. Elena felt tears threatening and didn't try to stop them. "Thank you," she whispered. "All of you, for coming back for me." "That's what teams do," Webb said simply. "No one gets left behind." They stayed for an hour, talking, laughing, processing what they'd been through together. When they finally left, Elena was exhausted, but at peace. She pulled her father's dog tags from under her hospital gown. They'd found them on her when she was brought in, kept them safe through surgery, and pressed them to her lips. "I understand now, Dad," she whispered. "I finally understand everything." Being a warrior wasn't about killing. It wasn't about strength or toughness or the ability to survive impossible odds. It was about love. Love for your country. Love for your team. Love for the people you're protecting, even when they'll never know your name. Her father had loved like that, had died loving like that. And now Elena would live like that. For him. For her team. For everyone who needed a guardian in the darkness. She closed her eyes, holding the dog tags close. Stay cold. Stay controlled. Stay compassionate. That was the legacy. That was the mission. That was who Elena Vance was, and who she would always be. 1 year later, Elena stood on the deck of an aircraft carrier, watching the sunrise over the Pacific. Her shoulder still ached sometimes. It probably always would. But she'd learned to work around it. Behind her, Ghost Squadron assembled. 12 operators now, including 3 women she'd personally recruited and trained. The first integrated combat team in SEAL history. "Ma'am." Webb appeared beside her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. He'd been promoted to senior chief, and Elena had specifically requested him for her new command. "Ready for today?" "Always." "It's a big deal, you know. First female officer to command a SEAL squadron. Press is going crazy about it." "I don't care about the press." "I know. That's why they can't stop talking about you." Elena smiled and took the coffee. "How's the team?" "Motivated, focused, ready to follow you into hell and back." Webb paused. "Your father would have loved them." "I know." A young ensign approached nervously. She was 19 years old, fresh from BUD/S, one of only 4 women to ever complete the training. "Commander Vance, I just wanted to say, you're the reason I enlisted. You're the reason I pushed through when they said I couldn't do it." Elena turned to look at her, saw herself, 6 years ago, standing on the edge of something terrifying and wonderful. "What's your name?" "Ensign Maya Torres, ma'am." "Torres. Good name." Elena handed her the coffee. "You know why I do this job, Torres? To serve your country, ma'am? That's part of it. But the real reason?" Elena looked at the sunrise, feeling her father's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. "I do this so people like you can follow. So the next generation of warriors knows that strength doesn't have a gender, that courage doesn't care what you look like, that the only thing that matters is whether you're willing to give everything for the people counting on you." Torres was quiet for a moment. "How do I become like you?" Elena smiled. "Not with anger, Torres. With excellence. Always with excellence." She walked toward her team, leaving the young ensign staring after her. Ghost Squadron snapped to attention as she approached. "Listen up," Elena said, her voice carrying across the deck. "We have a mission. High-value target. Hostile territory. The kind of operation that makes careers or ends them." She looked at each face, seeing not just operators, but family. "I'm not going to lie to you. This will be dangerous. Some of us might not come home." Silence. "But I made you a promise when I took this command. I will never ask you to do something I won't do myself. I will never leave you behind. I will give everything I have to bring every single one of you home." Her voice hardened with emotion. "That's not just words. That's who I am. That's who my father raised me to be." She touched the dog tags under her uniform. "So when we go into the dark, and we will go into the dark, Remember this: we go together, we fight together, and whatever happens, we come home together. Because that's what warriors do. That's what family does. She came to attention. Go, squadron. Move out. They moved as one, 12 warriors with a single purpose, following a woman who had earned their trust with blood and sacrifice and love. Elena walked at their head, leading them toward whatever came next. She was 23 years old now. She'd faced death more times than she could count. She'd lost her father, found his killer, and built a legacy that would outlast them both. And she was just getting started. Because she was Elena Vance. She was Ghost. And in this world of darkness and danger, she would always be a light. Not because she was fearless, but because she was afraid and fought anyway. Not because she was invincible, but because she was wounded and rose again. Not because she was perfect, but because she was flawed and chose excellence anyway. That was her father's legacy. That was her promise. And that was the truth that would carry her through whatever storms lay ahead. The strongest warriors are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who fall and rise again, carrying others with them, refusing to surrender until every last soul is safe. Elena Vance was that warrior, and she always would be.